So welcome back to the video. We're going to be putting in the crankshaft and then put in the transmission, the shift drum, and with that crankshaft you might have to use that crankshaft puller to pull the crankshaft into the bearing. So get those shift forks and then get the pin in. And then some people like to use a liquid gasket to seal up the cases, but I like to use a paper gasket because I might be back in there and I don't want to have to, scrape all that off. So get those crankcase bolts back in, and you might have to tap it with a little hammer to get it to seat, and then tighten up all those bolts, crisscross pattern. And it should seat. And you can see it slowly going down. You'll have to cut the gasket, that extra gasket. So make sure it's going down evenly too. You don't want to bind it up or anything. Yeah, make sure it moves alright. Now we're gonna put on the gears. So we'll put on the woodruff key and then the collar. Put in the shift pin, the cam roller, and the shift cam, then the shift pulls, and then we'll be putting on the primary gear, the kickstarter and the idle gear. There's the kickstarter. Make sure that spring seats in. And then the idle gear, make sure you get that washer. And then so then you get this will be make sure that woodruff key's in there, because the primary gear won't slide on without that woodruff key. And if I'm going too fast, I have the footage saved so I could give you guys the footage if this is all too fast. So that primary gear goes on, then the basket, and then you'll have to tighten those both down. And you're gonna have to use the gear jammer right here. And torque that down the specs. And you'll have to use Loctite on some stuff. Forgot to cover that. And then you'll chisel the tab washer. Next, put the clutch disc in. On the pressure plate, make sure you got that collar. And then the clutch springs. Crisscross pattern. So I hope you guys liked the video. Alright, so now we're getting on the outer cover. And I think the water pump is going to be next. Make sure you got the gasket on, new gaskets. Don't reuse the old one. So the outer cover. I'm gonna have to tap that with a hammer too. Then the clutch cover. And then we'll be doing the water pump and then the power valve spring. And torque that down the spec. Crisscross pattern. And there's the coolant pump. Make sure you got the propeller down. Get some red Loctite or some blue Loctite on that, on the cover. So if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. Any comments, concerns, anything. Get the discussion started. Right now we're going to go on the flywheel side, get that woodruff key in. Make sure this is all tight. Then put the ignition timing back on. And then put the starter motor back on. And we'll flip it back over and we'll put the flywheel back on. Make sure you got that washer. And torque that down the spec. And then we'll be moving, and then put the cover back on. Then we'll be moving to the top end. And I think there's a gasket under that one too, so make sure you got that. And here's the flywheel side. Get the gasket, there it is. Oh, and here's the pistons. You can use whatever pistons you want. Make sure they're cylinder clearance. Comes with the wrist pin, the circlips, the small end bearing, or the big end bearing. Make sure you lube up everything with some premix. Or you could use assembly lube. So yeah, lube up the wrist pin. Make sure you got the piston on in the correct direction. There should be an arrow on the top. It tells you the exhaust port. So that's the front of the engine. So it's a lot easier to put the piston or the wrist pin through the piston than taking it out. Sometimes you'll need that special tool. You don't want to smack it with a hammer. That should just slide right in. Make sure you lube that up. And we'll be on to the rings. Make sure you measure your ring end gap. Hope you saw the first video, so you kind of know what measurements you have to take. And here's the old cylinder head, that's the damaged one, and then here's the new one that got repaired. It's not new, it's repaired. I think Power Seal, they replated it. And here's the oil jug. You can see the score marks. Scratches, and then here's the new jug. You have to swap over the power valve if you're getting a new cylinder. Make sure the power valve's all lubed up. Here's the old crankshaft. It's stuck. It's frozen. You can see it broke the stuffing. That was pretty bad. I was ripping pretty hard. I just stopped. All new everything. All new crankshaft. All new piston, cylinder head, bearings. All new gaskets. Everything's new in the engine. Just like the Honda. So be sure to check out my other Honda videos and my Ninja 250 videos. So yeah, clean up the piston, clean up the cylinder for some dirt. use soap and water. I think I'm cutting the piston rings right now. Make sure you got those on the right way. The letters should be facing up, and if it's a 4-stroke, make sure that you got the compression ring. And lube up the jug with premix. Can't have too much lube. Lube up the piston. I'm using red Dominator. We're gonna slide the jug on. You're gonna have to pinch the piston rings while you do that. You don't have to measure the ring end yet. You might have to shave a little bit depending on your bore size. Well, here's the base gaskets. I got 3 of them. If you stack them, you change the timing and you lose compression. But if you have two less base gaskets or not enough of them, you can detonate the engine. So you'll have to measure the squish clearance, and I forgot to cover that too. That's another thing you'll have to measure. And if it's a 4-stroke, you have to measure all the stuff in the head, all the valves and stuff like that, make sure they're in spec, but this is a 2-stroke, so it should be just fine. So lube up everything, really everything, with premix or engine assembly lube, and slide that right on the jug. Sorry about if you can't see. And then we'll be torquing that down the spec, so we'll be putting those studs back on. So if you like the video, you KTM riders, beta riders on the forums, leave a comment, like, share the video, spread it. I hope it helps somebody. I'm sorry if it was too fast. So we're going to be getting back on the power valve. We have to connect it to the cylinder. And there's like a little L clip that you'll have to connect. So if it was too fast for you, I can try to redo the video, or I have the footage I could send you guys. If it's going too fast, it was like, 8 hours of footage that I had to go through, squirm it all down in 30 minutes. Let's get that gasket back in there. Then put on the side covers, and then we'll put on the head. Make sure you got the head gasket. It's 2 O-rings. On some bikes it's a paper gasket, but on this bike it's an O-ring. Then you can put your reeds back on. So I hope you guys liked the video. Leave, comments, concerns, questions, anything. So I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.